next, we are going into what is called Keynote Ignites. What are Keynote Ignites, Danielle, you ask? They are 5 minutes long, okay, so they're quick. You only get 15 slides, 20 seconds timed, and no clicker. Can you feel the excitement here? Like these people, I would never sign up for this myself. But I think I am excited for all of you. And we're going to give them a rousing round of applause after all of them are done. Okay, so coming up to the stage, as I depart the stage, we have Tania Katan, who is going to be discussing It Was Never Addressed. And she is an evangelist of sorts. Go ahead. Her time doesn't start until she gets on stage.
Thank you.
Wait. Is your mic on?
I don't know. Is my mic on? No, it's not. I don't know. Jesus. Hey, this is
Yes. And it's on.
Am I hot? Yeah, I'm hot. Thank you for inviting me to Lesbians Who Theater. Yeah! I have a degree in theater. What? Lesbians Who Tech? Awesome. Lesbians Who Tech! Yay! Okay, awkward. But the first thing I learned in theater school is this idea called suspension of disbelief. It's where we decide as a group to let go of everything we know to be true about the world around us and take a gigantic, poetic leap of faith into the unknown. And that's how I landed in technology. I got a phone call from a software company called AxoSoft, and they're like, Tanya, we'd like to talk to you about software. And I'm like, that sounds awesome. I know nothing about software. And I went in and I met with the CEO, Laudan Shojai. And she's this petite, very direct firecracker of a human. And she's like, we brought you in because we really like your energy. And I'm like, I came in because I really like your energy. And she's like, but we're not offering you a job. And I'm like, I don't want a job. And she's like, but we've always wanted to hire an evangelist. You would make a great evangelist. And I'm like, an evangelist? An evangelist! That would freak my Jewish mom out. Yes! I would love to evangelize with you. So I started my job at AxoSoft, and I knew nothing about software, and I started learning about agile methodology, and I'm like, oh, this is good. It's collaborative, it's iterative. Basically, you're working together to make something larger than yourself. I'm into it. So my boss throws me a curveball just as I'm getting my stride on, and she's like, I want to sponsor Big Girls in Tech event, and I want you to come up with a big idea so we can show up in a big way. And so my colleague Sarah and I started brainstorming and came up with nothing. So then I went for a walk and I started thinking about women in technology and girls in technology, women in every space, and how oftentimes we're not seen, heard, or celebrated for the superheroes we are. And then I started thinking, what if we could take theater principles and apply them to technology, right? Like, what if we could suspend disbelief and jump into a world where women made as much as their male counterparts? And what if we could leap into a space where women made up 50% of C-level positions? And what if we could land in a classroom where a 12-year-old girl takes a coding class because she sees herself in the female teacher, because she sees herself in the girl sitting next to her, because she sees herself. And I saw a symbol in my mind's eye on that walk. And I knew that the symbol was easily recognizable across cultures and genders, and I brought her back to my colleague Sarah, and I'm like, I've got this! And she's like, awesome, now what? So I printed out this symbol, and with a few line strokes, she revealed herself to us. It's as if she had been there this whole time. We were just looking at her the wrong way. And so we launched the It Was Never Addressed campaign. And by launch a campaign, that sounds very lofty and sophisticated. We had stickers, and and a table, and I talked about gender equity at the Girls in Tech event, and people started going nuts. And they posted it, they tweeted, as the kids say, the image, and they wrote, "cannot unsee," and it went around the world. And as a result, we started a scholarship for need-based students going into STEAM fields, and we did something even cooler than that. We are a small software company in Scottsdale, Arizona. We're teeny tiny, and we decided that it was important to tackle a large issue, and we took on gender equity. And I think that at the end of the day, you know, people ask me all the time if this affects our bottom line, right? What's the ROIs on that? I will tell you, it did and it didn't. We didn't make exponentially more revenue as a result of the campaign, but it did affect our bottom line. Because at the end of the day, if we're doing our jobs as artists and technologists, we are making tools that help people be seen, heard, and celebrated for the superheroes they are. Thank you.
Bravo! And with 30 seconds to spare. Well done. All right, coming up next to the stage, we have Jamie Chung, software engineer of Dropbox, CSS vs. My Gender, a study in transitions.
Hello. Hi. Can you hear me? I'm just going to keep talking. Keep talking. OK, I hear it now. OK, great. Hi, I'm Jamie. I really like giving this talk because first of all, it's been a really sleepless week for me, so I'm a little weird, and I'm gonna use these notes because it's been a weird week, and I see that my time is going. So a little bit of information about me. I'm Jamie. I use they, them pronouns, and so for me that means I identify as non-binary and trans. And I really like giving this talk to LWT because this audience really just feels like it has a lot of potential to get shit done, you know. And I work in the tech industry, and it's really awesome, but it's also really lonely. And so in addition to being an engineer, I take a lot of initiative for being involved with employee resource groups at Dropbox. And I like to mention in this talk that I don't want tech companies to feel comfortable because they have a diversity team or because they have employee resource groups. I really want us to ask harder questions. What are you, as an individual, as a company, as an organization, really doing to enable Black, brown, indigenous, femme, non-binary livelihood? And I also think that being an ally is a constant state of learning and navigating space and being true partners. I've recently heard the term accomplices, actually, instead of allies, and I'm sort of starting to like that more. So as you can see, what I'm saying doesn't really have to do a lot with my slides, mainly because I hear this word disrupt thrown around a lot in this industry, and instead of my planned talk, I want to use my time to recognize some stuff that's happened this week and amplify Black voices, because we need to get some shit done. So, light warning, some of you will already have heard some of names that will come up. Those of you that have been living this very deeply, thank you for your patience. So this week, 2 Black men were killed. One, an unarmed music aficionado, father of 4. Another, a disabled person, also a father, Terrence Crutcher, Keith Lamont Scott. A 13-year-old in Columbus, Ohio was killed. He was barely 5 feet tall, Tyree King. In the last 10 days, 3 trans women were murdered, Titi Safore, Yasmin Sanchez, Crystal Edmonds, and the names we hear on the news in our feeds are only the lives that we know of. So I asked some friends of mine, all of whom are Black and living in the US, all different occupations, genders, ages, if there's something that you wanted this audience to know, no matter how obvious it seems, what would it be? So here are their thoughts, verbatim. We're not asking for absolution, but we're asking for the right to be innocent until proven guilty. Extrajudicial execution completely circumvents that. I want the same accountability being hand-wrung over the red herring that is Black on Black crime to be applied to state violence. There's a need for more minds in tech to hack social justice. Driverless cars sounds really dope, but realistically, what would policeless neighborhoods look like? Okay, I really love all this applause, but I have 2 minutes left, and I want to get through all of these thoughts. If we sit in silos of silence, we perpetuate the devaluing of people of color by our country and ourselves. We are a generation who's becoming desensitized to death and losing hope in a future because of the color of their skin. I worry that people will see my pain, my rage, my fear of not making it home safely or at all and use it against me. At work, I'm afraid of letting my guard down and being disappointed by yet another white person who pretends to give a shit but doesn't do a damn thing to make my life safer, better, and happier. The athletic protest in solidarity with the national movement to fight state-sanctioned murder of Black people is in no way a protest against veterans. Do not allow the conversation about these protests to be about a song or Americanness. The protest by Colin Kaepernick and other athletes is about every Black life that is lost at the hands of a police officer who will not be held accountable for their actions. I wish I had something novel to say, but the truth is there's nothing novel about what's going on. I'm so upset, I'm so tired. Okay, so me again. It's hard to start conversations like this because it takes a lot of work, and defensiveness is this very thick, daunting wall to scale. Like, how do I explain that my phone will fall if I let go of it without using the word gravity? Because sometimes the word gravity offends people, right? You might say, well, you shouldn't have let go with all 5 fingers, as if to say, like, maybe if I had held on with one, it wouldn't have fallen. Or maybe I'll drop 20 phones, and you might say, wow, I can't believe this keeps happening. I know it's a colloquial response, but like high key, I need you to believe that it's happening because that's sort of part of the problem. Because once you believe that it's actually happening, we can anticipate it before it happens and then do something about it. And I'm not made of iPhones either. I don't have the answer or the solution to what you personally should or shouldn't do. I think unlearning systemic injustice takes literal lifetimes, and while we grieve the ones we lose because of the work that wasn't done yet, I'm not going to ask you, are you doing enough? Because I don't want you to think that you're ever not enough. You are, everyone is enough. But what are you going to do when you say this is enough? And I'll also ask, do you want to be right or do you want resolution? Thanks.
Bravo, 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 bravo. That's what activism looks like in action. All right. Coming to the stage next, we have Deborah Cleaver, using technology to radically increase voter turnout in 2016, founder of Vote.org.
Hi, everybody. First, let me say it's really hard to follow that, so everyone have some sympathy for me. So my name is Deborah Cleaver, and I'm the founder of Vote.org. And about a decade ago, I started asking myself exactly why voter turnout in this country is so low. And the common consensus is that voter turnout is low because Americans are apathetic. But there's literally no evidence that Americans are apathetic. I would actually say, on the whole, we are a hot-headed, passionate people who like to debate things endlessly. So the reason that voter turnout is so low in America is we literally make it almost impossible for Americans to vote. This is a country where we hold elections during the day, during the week, when about 90% of Americans are at work. This is a country where 32 separate states have passed totally racist voter ID laws, which are designed just to decrease turnout among Black and brown Americans. Matter of fact, this is a country where Columbus Day, like literally Colonialism Day, is a federal holiday, and Election Day isn't. So when people want to know why Americans don't vote, the answer is because voting is really fucking hard in America. So stop saying that Americans are apathetic. It's actually a conservative talking point, which decreases voter turnout. So I just lost my place. So, okay, meanwhile, for decades, we've been working to increase voter turnout. And unfortunately, a lot of the tactics that we use aren't horribly efficient. Most voter registration happens by sending people into the field to talk to the most socially and economically isolated people in America and beg and plead with them to register to vote, which is why on average it costs between $20 and $715 to register a new voter in America. So I'm Deborah, I'm cheap, I like technology, I like efficiency, and when I started Vote.org, I was like, let's try something different. Instead of finding the most difficult to reach voters in America, Let's find people who are 70% likely to vote and help them get to 100% likely to vote by removing incredibly stupid roadblocks to voter turnout. And like, I'm gonna be honest, when I launched this, it was kind of like a half-baked plan to use the internet to increase voter turnout, but 8 years and 6.2 million voters later, I'm absolutely... So at this point, I'm absolutely certain that we can use the internet to increase voter turnout. So this year, instead of like running a field drive, we've started buying the cell phone numbers of unregistered voters in swing states. And I literally have call centers of people sending text messages directly to unregistered voters. We're using text message because it's fast, it's cheap, it's easy to scale. And in a few weeks, when we're done with this, we'll be able to say that we ran one of the largest and most cost-effective voter registration drives in history. So, I'm gonna put my laptop down, offer some disclaimers. Vote.org is a nonpartisan organization dedicated to 100% voter turnout in America. And we would never tell you how to vote in the upcoming campaign. But I will tell you that this election is less a contest between two different parties and more a referendum on female leadership. And every day, I think we see evidence of the impossibly high standards that women are held to, especially women who dare to enter a male-dominated field. So on one side, we have the single most qualified candidate for office ever, and on the other side, we have a literal buffoon. And these people are considered equally qualified for the presidency. So I'm gonna be a little honest with you guys. The election is soon, and the race is maybe closer than it should be. So Vote.org has a plan, we have a vision, we have a really long track record of success. We even have 7 full-time employees if you count both of my cats. But what we don't have right now is a ton of money. So I'm counting on the people in this room to help me close a pretty decent budget gap right now. I think we can do it. We have time. And with your help, I think we're going to make history in November. Thank you.
A literal buffoon. Let that sink in. All right, coming up next to the stage, we have Ginger Chin, device architect at AT&T. Embrace your fears, make the stories yours.
1, 2, 1, 2. This is a story about how I came to a new relationship with fear, one in which fear is embraced and not fought with, where it becomes more of a companion and much less of a constant obstacle. And how did I get to this place? Some wise friends taught me that I'm bigger than my feelings, and that rings true for me because I'm not just a pile of feelings. I have dreams and principles, and as I move through life in pursuit of those, the feelings, as messy as they are exactly what I need to measure how fully I'm living. But they aren't me. They're just a part of me, and that gives me the safety to hold them and not be overwhelmed by them and to look. The physicist Heisenberg said that all you have to do is look at something and it begins to change. And as I looked at my fear, I began to see that it wasn't just one fear, it was different kinds. There were some fears that were sharp and acute. They would appear instantly in the face of real danger, and as soon as that danger had passed, they were gone. And then there were the messy fears. These were accompanied by nausea and anxiety, and I could tell that these would appear long before anything even happened and linger long afterwards, and these were connected with my relationships. And I could trace these messy fears all the way back to my childhood, where I, being transgender and being raised as a little Chinese boy and asking for things from the heart of a little girl, like the toys and the friends and the clothes, I was met with ridicule, and I took it upon my shoulders to never shame the entire Chinese world again. And I wrote powerful stories in my heart, dictated to me by my world, retold over a lifetime by my fears, stories to make sure I would never be vulnerable again. We become our stories. And yet they are just stories. And the change I made was to no longer fight the stories in order to get through the fear, but instead to say to them, through some tears, thank you. You served me well. But I'm not that little kid anymore. And in fact, I have a whole community that's pulling for me. And you're in my way. So thank you and goodbye. Now, the purpose being not to try to erase the stories. I can't really do that. The awful things that happened, they really happened. And the stories, they had a lifetime to perfect themselves. But my goal was to just move them into the distance far enough to make room so I could begin to write new stories to replace the old ones. And the old stories, they're still there, spinning away, always trying to hook me, and that's okay. But having been honored, and with me no longer giving them the energy of the fight, my energy, they've grown quieter, and that leaves me in a powerful place. I shared all of this with a lesbian friend of mine one day, and after I was done, she was staring at the floor, and she said, Ginger, I need to share something with you. She said years ago, when she was struggling with coming out, she had taken a trip, and she found herself at the top of a cliff. And as she stood there at the top, looking at the waves crashing at the rocks far below, she decided it was just too terrifying to live with being gay. And so she reached deep into her heart, and she ripped out everything that was gay, and she threw it over the cliff to be rid of being gay and her fears forever. And then she went back down to the bottom. But when she got there, she was confused because she still felt afraid. And she said, Ginger, I think I get it now. I think I see. The fears at the top and the bottom of the cliff, they were different. At the top of the cliff, that was the fear of living with being gay. And at the bottom of the cliff, thinking she had gotten rid of being gay, that was the fear of dying without ever having lived. I hope I've shared a little insight with you, maybe even a little wisdom, that you are bigger than your feelings. And there's safety there, safety to look and look deeply at your fears, but just look. Don't fight them, don't engage them, just look, and you'll begin to see, and you'll begin to feel that the fears are different. There are those that serve you, and there are those that don't. And of those that don't, those that may come from old stories, thank the old stories. They did what they had to do. But having been honored, they will move into the distance to give you room in which to write new stories with which to guide your life. Make the new stories yours.